Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. New videos every week, motivational Mondays, weird Wednesdays, and of course, your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness. 3 days, 3 chances to tune in because it is dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once. Now on this episode of Tex Grebner Outdoors, we're honing in on deer season. Now to be honest with you, I haven't got a clue, but I'm starting to figure out how to be a fairly decent deer hunter. If only I could get my whitetails to show up on cue. However, we're going to be doing some time traveling because while I had planned on putting out a squirrel hunting episode this week, in fact, the nuts aren't quite ripe yet and it's been too warm. So I decided that I was going to dedicate some time to getting ready for deer season. And I have just finished building this blind here on the ground. So I'm going to take you back in time to the start and show you how we got here, and maybe you'll learn something along the way. I am cut to absolute shit by the corn leaves. That was no kind of fun. I've got a good solid deer trail right down here. And I've hung a tree stand up here before, up there. But I'm planning to hang it low here and end up with a good ambush point. So the general plan of attack here, the general ambush, is that right behind me, I've got a deer trail. And right there, I've got another deer trail. So I'm setting this stand up just off of both of these trails. And with the left side of my body pointing to where the deer should be coming from if they show up. The reason for that is I don't want to have any movement. I want to be able to sit right here and take maybe maximum a 12-yard shot through this little gap here in these weeds. And of course I can always scoot around and take a shot right here should a deer take this trail. But seems like about a perfect ambush. Now I just got to put this pad back in here on the seat.
Now this is last deer season. You see that tree right there? Yeah, that tree. That's the tree that I'm hanging this stand on. Now obviously, as you can see, if I had already had a stand on that tree, this would have ended much differently.
Now naturally, I forgot my limb saw, so I'm beaver chewing this with a Cold Steel Voyager. Not the most ideal way of doing things, but here at Tex Grebner Outdoors, I tend to operate under less than ideal circumstances. And it's handy to have the skill and the determination to make sure that you can actually accomplish something even if you don't have the actual proper tools. Again, not the most ideal way of doing this, but if you know a proper technique to use a knife improperly, you can actually accomplish a lot with a comparatively small blade. Fiber under tension cuts a lot easier. But I got that accomplished, So now you can see on through here, I've got this gap in these weeds that I can sink an arrow through. So that's going to be incredibly helpful if deer takes either one of those trails. So here's that well-beaten deer trail that I was talking about. I want that critter right where I'm standing at, because if you can see that blue through that little gap in those weeds, that's my tree stand seat. So in theory, seems to be a pretty good idea. Now to the next ambush point. So I'm kind of trying to figure out where I want to set this other spot at, because I've got this gap here in this fence that I know gets well used, and I can set it over there. So I've got it strapped here onto this pine tree in the fence row, and I've still got that gap on that side. I decided that I was going to put it on this side. Well, I need to get going. I need to come back in at some point with the actual limb saw so that I'm not doing it with my pocket knife. And I'm wanting to get going before it gets true dark, because hiking through a cornfield when it gets true dark is not my idea of fun. Didn't have a chance to go after any squirrels tonight, but hopefully I got some constructive shit done as far as setting up my stands and picking out my ambushes. So here's hoping. But life ain't like the pornos, hunting ain't like the TV shows. It is dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once. So into the corn I go. Well, I made it out of the corn before it got true dark. So I probably should have brought out my nocturnal nocks tonight, but I did pack in a target so that I can explain this ambush a little bit better about why I'm set up the way that I am. As I explained before, there's a gap in the fence here, and right where that orange target is, that's where I want the deer to be. When an animal starts to come through the gap in the fence, I slide on my camera, pick up my bow out of the holder, and I take my shot. Very little movement, ideal ambush. However, as you can see, it's very open up there. So I'm going to be kind of screwed if one comes from the top of the hill. Now that would have been a cool angle if I'd remembered my nocturnal nocks, but I didn't happen to have them in this quiver. But I'm just going to paste this off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and about a 30-inch arrow, so 11-yard shot, so inside of 10 yards. Now as you can see here, well-used deer trail. Down here, the gap in the fence. So it seems like an ideal setup depending on if a critter actually shows up. So theoretically, I'm going to be employing some pretty ancient tactics that would have been used for hunting with very primitive weapons, much more primitive than a modern recurve bow. So this is going to be pretty awkward because it's really low to the ground since I don't actually have a 3D deer here. But I think I can make this shot. Let's go have a look. Yeah, that went pretty well. Went pretty well indeed. So that's what I'm looking at as far as this particular ambush as well. Starting to rain, so gonna pack out. So with daylight kind of limited this time of year, days are getting shorter, and time kind of limited, I'm packing in the 410, got a couple shells in my pocket, and I need to go and put in a trail camera, but I figure all these walnut trees, I might see a squirrel when I'm walking the edge of the field. Kill two birds with one stone, because I know you guys have been wanting a squirrel hunting video. But the trouble is, as a hunter, and thus is the spirit of the hunt, unlike any other YouTube video style, there's no guarantee anything's ever going to show up. I don't bring you a murder fest. What I try to do is tell you a hunting story. Now, of course, you guys are probably sick of seeing me work on this particular stand, but the fact is, to quote Tread Barta, you got to put in the work. The work in the off season should help me when it comes time to get me a deer. By the way, it's never a good idea to go cutting fences. However, in this case, I know that there's never going to be any livestock in here ever again. Oh, I hate the shit out of these. I love merino wool, but wool is totally not cockleburr proof. Now I know that ain't actually cockleburr, but not the point. So what this is going to allow me to do with this section of fence here that I cut out so that I could maneuver in my stand a little bit easier is I'm going to be able to either take burlap or duck boat grass and thatch it onto here and basically shield myself in from view, because as I said, over here it's really open. But if I actually drive a post in here and set this up and thatch up against it, it's going to give me a visual barrier so that I'm invisible to the deer until it's too late. What I'm doing here is I'm testing the infrared sensor on this camera to make sure that I'm going to be able to get pictures of deer on the trail, and that light's showing that I'm in the infrared sensor beam. So everything should be about perfect. Ironically enough, I ran out of daylight to squirrel hunt yet again. I spend so much time trying to break the whitetail curse every year that I never get down to any serious squirrel hunting, which is funny because when I was a kid, that's all I grew up doing was squirrel hunting, like a little kid. And of course, when you're sitting in a deer stand, what's the only thing you ever see? Squirrels. Also, I'm going to have to come back with a post or a couple of stakes and a hammer and put that chunk of fence that I cut out back. And I also need to go get some batteries because I found out that my trail camera batteries were almost dead. But one of these days I'm going to get around to doing some squirrel hunting. I might have to wait for another episode, I don't know. But I'm just getting hiked out now. So this has been a really awkward hike in through the cornfield with this duck blind mat, but I ended up getting my mat, some camo netting, and I ended up getting new batteries for my trail camera and some stakes. here is that I'm going to tie on this camo netting here. Now this is the super flimsy stuff, so we're not talking high quality camo net. But I'm going to tie it onto this woven wire with this string I've got here in a lot of different places, so hopefully it won't just rip off. So basically what I've been doing most of the afternoon is thatching this duck blind grass onto this woven wire here over top of this camo mesh. Now this duck blind grass isn't all that durable, so I'm probably going to come back in October and it's going to be all blown around and terrible. But maybe not. You never really know when it comes to hunting. And it wouldn't be the first time that my plans were foiled by terrible circumstances. It is really tedious to go through here and basically grid this out to where pretty much anywhere that it's loose, that I find a wire and tie it off. That way it's not actually having to support itself all in the same spot. So what I've got going on here is I've got my extra camo net that I didn't need tied off right here. And I've got these branches back here. So I can just drape that over that branch here. And so what this does is it prevents me from being silhouetted because I stick out off of the tree. The reason that I'm not tying that off is because if I tied it off on both ends and came back, the wind would just tear it to shreds. So when I'm not using it, I can put it down and it should be fine. But when I want to use it, I put it up, and I've got something here that's going to break up my outline. Now, as you can see, it's early evening and I'm in the shade. No matter what time of year it is, I'm always going to be in the shade in the evening because this is a pine tree, an evergreen. So I'm always going to have overhead foliage. So I'm pretty much sure that this blind setup is done because I've got the grass thatch on the front of my woven wire. As you can see on the back side, I've also got the camo net there. None of this is very durable, so I may end up having to replace it come season. I don't know. I'll keep you posted. I'm no stranger to tragedy. But I've also got my camo net back here. And I've got my deer trail out there. So it seems pretty hopeful. Right now, you're standing on the deer trail. So now that I've got fresh batteries in this trail camera, I got her turned on. I'll come back and check it at some point in the future. I do hope I get to film a squirrel hunting episode for you guys, but life ain't like the pornos, hunting ain't like the TV shows. I bring you the reality of hunting. Now, as you can see here, these walnuts aren't quite ready to drop yet. So the squirrels aren't super active yet. So if you made it this far into your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, make sure to leave me a comment so that I can know you were here. I truly appreciate all of your support. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at SOETacticalgear.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.